and go live. This is the Action Cast, the only podcast that always bets on a guy fucking an alligator. And now, our feature presentation. Oh boy, it is once again the Action Cast. We've been doing. Is this a full year now? That this is the 12th one.
This is our year anniversary.
This is our year anniversary since we came back. Yeah.
Started with Darkman, continued to our now unnervingly popular Time Cop episode, which I believe crossed 50K views this week. We still don't know why.
Don't know why.
If anyone would like to explain to us?
Yeah, 50,000 views on the Time Cop.
Nothing else.
And one comment that says "waste time nonsense," to which I just said thanks for the engagement.
Yes. So hills and valleys.
Yeah.
Gutters and strikes, as the dude would say.
Absolutely. So we're doing a thing we used to do, which is it's WrestleMania. So actually, the next time we record, or the next time we stream one of these, will be the day after WrestleMania. So this is our WrestleMania episode, which is we've done some of the worst movies we've ever done, like No Holds Barred, and some of the best, like They Live, have been WrestleMania installments. This is closer to the No Holds Barred end of the spectrum. I am not.
It's on the wrong end of the no holds barred end, I would say.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say that this is the worst movie the cast has ever done, but this might be the worst one that I've been on.
I'm not even sure this is bottom 5, honestly. It's definitely. I told Megan watched it with me. It's not as bad as Gunblast Vodka, and I told Megan as I was coming in here to do this. This isn't even the worst movie starring a wrestler that we've done, because we watched fucking Santa with Muscles, you guys.
Gonna say it's the worst movie of this current incarnation of the Action Cast.
Yeah, some of the Maniac Cop 3.
That's a tough watch. Yeah, I made it through this movie. So.
Yes.
Yeah, but Maniac Cop 3 at least has like some pretty shots in it and like some atmosphere.
Yeah.
I cannot say that about either of those things about this movie.
This movie has color shading. It's like Quake 2.
Yeah. Also, shit, guys. We watched fucking Thanksgiving 3 for this podcast once, and that's the only movie that I think we ever watched that I just didn't finish. That, like, Anthony and I just turned it off, because fuck that movie. But before we get into The Money Plane, this is also the newest movie we've watched in Action Cast history. This is a release from last year. But before we get into that, there's a quick couple of news bits that I actually do...
previous Action Casts that were like contemporary with like the release of the movie.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But I'm saying, now those movies are like 7 years old, and this movie is from last year. But I think we're gonna update again next month, maybe, or in May. I don't know when that movie comes out. We'll talk about it off air when we figure that out. But let's talk about the news a little bit before we get into things. So actually, there's a couple of news bits that I'm legitimately excited to talk about with you guys. So let me drop in the little media break sound here.
This is Media Break. You give us 3 minutes, and we'll give you the world.
And, so I want to talk about should we start with the good newses or the bad newses, I guess?
You're the news master.
I'm the news master. Okay,
you wrangle the news.
Let's just off with the bad news to get it out of the way, so we don't lead into the podcast being bummed out. The Alamo Drafthouse has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. They're not actually going out of business, but they're closing several locations and they're restructuring, and it all just kind of fucking sucks.
It does indeed fucking suck. I'm surprised it took them this long. On the only silver lining that I can say this is that I no longer have any reason to go to downtown Austin, which is just one big cesspit that has been, dug in the middle of the city. The Ritz was the one thing that would drag me to the 6th Street area, and now happily I can kiss that whole little nightmare between Mopac and 35 goodbye. So,
is that
voyage, Ritz.
How many of the Texas ones are closing? Is it just that
Just
one?
the one.
And
Just
then
the one, because that was, like I said, that was their downtown location. It was like kind of their flagship. Like, I think it had actually been a money loser for a while, but they kept it open so they could have their deep in the heart of Austin place and do all their rep and grindhouse screenings, and it was definitely a fun place. I saw a lot of good shows there, and I'm gonna miss it a lot.
And they're also closing the one by friend of the show, the SL, our friend Scott, the one in Kansas City, right, is closing as well. I think I saw, and then there's one more, I think. But really, 3 out of however many there are now is like, it could be a lot worse. And apparently Tim League is part of the company that's doing the restructuring and buying the debt, however they're structuring all that shit. So hopefully it doesn't stray too far from what it's been.
Yeah.
But, it's really frustrating when, like, you see all these companies and people who are getting the PPR money, the relief money from the COVID stuff. And it's like, I don't know if Alamo got any or how much they got, but I feel like if this is the result, they probably should have got more. And probably Ruth's Chris didn't need, like, however, like, millions of dollars they got in PPR. I don't know. I don't know. But it's a bummer. It's at least they're not, like, going away permanently. So,
right.
Yeah, we'll see.
Chapter 11 is a very different. Does not mean that they're going away forever or whatever.
Yeah.
Moving their debt around.
Yeah, they're doing a little shell game with some of the debt, and hopefully closing those few locations lets them keep their head above water, and hopefully we get enough vaccines and enough arms in the very near future that people can just start, like, going to movies again. But
according to, like, Texas and Florida, it's over.
Thanks for that salt in the wound there.
Yeah.
I really needed that right now.
That's right. We're here to talk about WrestleMania. Apparently they're going to do fucking WrestleMania in a stadium with fucking tens of thousands of people. So
What? It's in Florida. It's fine.
Oh my God.
Ugh.
So,
Well, yeah, it's an outdoor. It's like an 80,000 seat stadium, and they're going to have like 20,000 people there or something like that, I think.
Oh, I thought it was more. Maybe they'd reduced it. Originally I heard that Vince wanted to get like 50 to 60,000 in there, and I was like, what the fuck, dude? That's not a good idea, but I don't know. Maybe...
in all fairness, that would be the ultimate heel move, because thousands of actual deaths. So could be totally keeping within his character.
Yeah.
He's well past his expiration date, so it's all gravy time for him. So.
Yeah. So the weird news is
Rock bought the XFL from under him. He's got nothing left.
That's right. The weird news is that apparently whoever owns it, I don't remember if it's 20th Century Fox or if it was Warner or who, I can't remember now, but there was a poll, a movie watcher poll, of what movies would you most like to see get a 4K Blu-ray release, and apparently Last Action Hero topped that fucking list. So we are getting a Last Action Hero 4K Blu-ray release next month. So
did we do that movie?
Yes,
I
we
like that
did.
movie more than most people. That movie's okay.
I mean, it's okay, but on my list of even on my list of Schwarzenegger movies that need a 4K,
yeah, is there 4K? That should probably be first.
That should be first. I bought the 4K Total Recall just for the Carol Co. I was going to talk about that after I watched it and I forgot, but I bought the 4K Total Recall for the Carol Co. documentary that's included on it, the feature-length Carol Co. documentary. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was worth the $15 or whatever I paid to buy Total Recall fourth time if you count my VHS copy from when I was a kid, which makes it tied for Evil Dead 2. Well, right. Makes it tied for Evil Dead 2 for movie I've bought the most separate times. So, which I think tells you a lot about me as a person. But, yeah, if you're interested in the history of sort of exploitation cinema and action movies in the 80s in particular, Carol Co. is sort of the big name. I mean, I just remember as a kid, like, I felt like if I saw that C outline and heard the little Jerry Goldsmith jingle for when Carol Co. was before the movie, I felt like I knew I was in for something that was at least going to be fun as a kid. That was like, that C, that neon C is getting outlined. Like, this is going to be fucking rad, and it is really... It's a fun look at those two guys who ran Carolco and kind of how they just sort of fucking sank the ship big time. No pun intended. No, fuck that. The pun was very intended as they sank the ship by making Cutthroat Island. So, but that, anyways, I don't know what's going to be on the Last Action Hero 4K Blu-ray, if that's going to be worth my money or not. But that was just the thing that I found interesting that was happening. But the two good pieces of news, things that I'm actually genuinely excited about, are Gareth Evans has a multi-picture deal with Netflix. The first of those was, I can't remember what it was called now.
The Apostle.
The Apostle. Not to be confused with the Robert Duvall movie where he plays a Southern preacher. This Apostle was the one where Michael Sheehan is a cult leader in like the Welsh Islands or whatever, somewhere in the British Isles, and Dan, I can't remember the actor's name now. He's in
Stevens.
Dan Stevens plays the. Anyways, it was not what you expect from Gareth Evans, but I still liked it a lot. It was much more horror from him.
I liked it. It's one of those movies that I didn't feel the need to go back and revisit ever, but this seems to be back to the action standard of it. I certainly didn't think it was a bad film. It's just.
Yeah, well, so I'm excited now that his next picture for Netflix is he and Tom Hardy are doing an action movie, and that's really all we know, basically. Is that Tom Hardy and Gareth Evans are collaborating on an action movie.
Don't we look forward to just seeing what weird voice Tom Hardy's going to do?
Yes, 100%. Absolutely.
I was hoping I had timed things that the news would be over when I got here, but
not quite. We got one more news item.
We all hope.
Okay, that's
here's some update on the previous news. It looks like they're aiming for around 30,000 people at WrestleMania out of a possible 75, which is similar
too many.
to like Daytona. The Daytona 500 had like 25,000 people out of at an 80,000 seat arena, so I don't know. That's a much bigger thing though, right? Because it's inside of a racetrack. But,
yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what we're looking. That's 2 days with 30,000 people there each day.
Yeah.
WrestleMania is 2 nights now. So
right.
I don't know. Anyways.
And the last bit of news then is that.
Remember The Raid? That was a good movie.
Yeah, that movie.
The Raid,
was a good movie.
And I still say that The Raid 2 is hideously underrated. I don't know what the fuck everyone was complaining about.
I like that movie, but it's not as good as The Raid.
Also, Eric, you got up and went to the bathroom at the best part of that
movie. I did it just before the best part of that movie, but it was like I had to poop so bad that I could taste it. So.
Oh boy.
For the record, ladies and gentlemen, that is a line that could have been featured in Money Plane.
No, that's better. That line is too good for Money Plane. But the last thing is that Edgar Wright is apparently readapting. He's not remaking.
I just would have delivered it a little more woodenly.
That's right.
As someone sitting next to you or in your general vicinity, I'm glad you made that choice.
Yes, I mean, same. Anthony and I think we're flanking you in that movie theater. So
I hope they make a Raid 3 so that way I have an excuse to go see a movie with Kurt again.
Yeah. I miss going to see movies with Kurt, and sometimes I just text him about that. Sometimes I'm just like, man,
remember this?
Yeah, Kurt's a good hang.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But the last news bit is that Edgar Wright is going to readapt the Stephen King's, or I'm sorry, not Stephen King.
This is what I want now. I want Edgar Wright adapting Steve.
He is readapting the Running Man, which is technically a Stephen King novel, but is a Richard Bachman novel, I guess technically.
I mean, Richard Bachman is Stephen King. So
yes, right.
Yeah.
So I'm into this. I'm into it both because the novel I read the novel in like junior high school and I don't remember a ton of it, but I have like revisited synopses of it that line up pretty well with my memory, and like the original novel is vastly different from the film adaptation that was directed by Starsky or Hutch. I never remember which. So I'm interested, and I feel like even when we talked about The Running Man on this show all those years ago, we talked about how there could be a remake of this, that like there's a version of a remake of this which is good.
Not The Running Man, but a re-adaptation of the Running Man book.
Yeah, and I think Edgar Wright.
Don't fuck with the original. Do not revisit the Schwarzenegger movie.
But not without Schwarzenegger
It's a
for sure.
perfect movie. Don't mess with it.
Look, all I care about is that they get Jim Brown back. So
All I care about is that they get Jesse Ventura back. I mean, come on. But you know, I'm really interested to see
How
what
about,
Edgar Wright
like,
does with
We
that.
want a hologram Richard Dawson.
No, I
Yes.
want
Better
Arnold
than either of those
Schwarzenegger
other
to
two
play
people.
Richard Dawson's character.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm in.
I
I'm
could see
down.
that. I mean, I think when we did that podcast, we talked about if they did a modern version, who would be the host, and I was like very steadfast that it would be Alex Trebek would be the best
Carey.
choice. Drew Carey. I was gonna say, but Alex Trebek is dead now, so I think Drew Carey would actually be
Drew
the
Carey
natural
would
choice.
be great. But actually, yeah, getting Schwarzenegger to do that role is the exact kind of smart ass shit that Edgar Wright likes. So
Yeah.
you know,
Um,
he said that and something lit up.
Yeah.
Actually, how about Steve Harvey?
Steve Harvey would be good. Yeah, he'd be a good choice
That
too.
would be good.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
He's great.
Um,
Love Steve Harvey.
Edgar Wright is one of those filmmakers that, in my opinion, has yet to make a bad film. Much like Gareth Evans, actually. I feel like neither of those guys have missed yet, and you know, maybe I'm jinxing it just by saying that. But I'm into whatever he does with The Running Man. I'm looking forward to seeing what it ends up being. So
I don't know. He adapted that one comic book, and that was pretty lame.
yeah, I mean that movie's good actually. But you know, all right. Anyways,
Couldn't finish it.
we are
Oh, no, that
Maybe it
movie
gets better
sucks.
at the end. Yeah.
we are
It's not his
here
fault.
to talk
Source
about the money
Gathered here
plane.
today.
Oh my
We're
God,
yeah.
I have two more news items.
Oh, you
that
do?
will
Okay.
Smoothly
Oh.
transition us into Money Plane.
All right.
Take that, Alex.
Do it.
One is directly related to Money Plane, and then another one is just like a little like a little sweet little cherry on top of the news. So first of all, they're doing a Frasier reboot TV show on the NBC, the Paramount Plus streaming thing, which is whatever. Find something for Kelsey Grammer to do, I guess. But then also Tim Allen and Richard Karn are going to host like a weird reality TV show for Netflix about people that like DIY stuff. And so on top, and then in addition to that, it's like everything from the late 90s and the early 2000s is new again because Edge is main eventing WrestleMania. And Christian Cage is like the big signing for AEW this past weekend. So it's just like we're just bringing all this shit that you remember from 2001 and we're gonna fucking vomit it back into your face again, I guess.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
So anyway, listen, good for Kelsey Grammer because I'm not sure that he really has much of a future as an evil guy in action movies.
No. And obviously
an
they
evil guy named Grump. Literally.
Grouch.
Grouch.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, the movie is fading already. I watched this fucking thing 40 minutes ago.
That's why I took a giant pile of notes because I can't, it's more than a little on the nose to fucking call him Grouch.
So I have to say that that my favorite thing about this movie so far is when I was just going like, all right, well, who is this guy? How did it get directed? Like, how did this get made, essentially? And he's been on like a bunch of like the guy who directed this has been on a bunch of like TV shows. Like he's on the new Hawaiian 5-0, but he got his start as the voice of one of the kids in Recess, which is a show that I know a lot of people have like nostalgia and affection for, and I do not. And it really makes sense because this is the kind of movie that you make if you have the severe emotional retardation that you get from being a child actor. Like this is what happens if you have no idea how human beings behave in any way, shape, or form because you've been raised around Angelinos your entire life.
Right. Well, this is the brother of Joey Lawrence, right?
All right. All three Lawrence
Right,
brothers
all three of the
are.
Lawrences are involved in this.
Yes.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Yeah, good job, Alex.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was so poor that I didn't realize it was a reference.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good job by you.
Hey, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I mean, whatever. No, you're welcome.
Part of me
Yeah.
wants to say that we should not go through this movie scene by scene like we usually do.
God no.
I mean, the movie's only
But
80
I also
minutes
don't
long, and
really
long
understand what
stretches of
happened
it
in the
are
movie.
Edge just kind of pretending
Oh.
to fly a plane.
Yeah,
so
that's
it's
okay. That's
probably okay.
that is absolutely the thing that of all the things about this movie that mystified me. The big one is, like, you get this wrestler, and usually when you get a wrestler, it's because you want them to do, like, action stuff, and, like, he's sitting in the fucking cockpit flying the plane for, like, literally at least half the movie.
I mean, he has
I
a
don't
bad
think he
neck.
did like a spear, did he?
No, he gets in a
He's not
fist
like
fight with, like, the co-pilot, and that's, like, it. And there's not enough room to do a spear in the cockpit, so...
Yeah.
It's just, like, it's... So the setup, let's at least give the setup, even if we don't go
There's
through
no
the whole
one to do
movie
a
beat by beat.
concerto with.
Yeah, right? Why wasn't Christian in this? It was because Christian's in
I don't
AEW now, that's why.
He could've
Christian
done,
left him.
Like, what's the name of the lady in the movie? The one that does all the fighting. He could have done one with her.
He could have. He should have. So the setup here is that Edge is the leader of an elite band of thieves, art thieves, apparently, or just general thieves, I guess. And he's supposed to be stealing a painting for Kelsey Grammer to repay a gambling debt, I guess, is what it sounds like, but it's not super duper clear, but I guess it's also not super duper important.
No, listen, they have a conversation where they go over all the backstory, where Edge was in a game of poker and lost a ton of money, and then the Rumble bought all of his debt, and then is making him work for him to pay it off.
Right.
I love that
right.
that hardcore gangster Kelsey Grammer has two stupid names, and I also love that that they go to all this trouble of like having this heist go wrong that Kelsey Grammer apparently set up to go wrong, but then he bought his debt anyway. So why did he need to do any of it? Why not just buy the debt? Like none of it makes any sense. Like this.
There are many plot points like that where it's just like, why this is like way more complicated than it needs to be. Like
we have watched a lot of stupid movies before. I really don't know if we've seen one quite this dumb. This might not be the worst movie we've ever seen, but it's quite possibly the dumbest movie.
It's up there. It's up there as the dumbest for sure, without a doubt. So that's the whole thing. He's supposed to steal a $40 million painting from like a fucking warehouse, just like, but they keep calling it as a museum heist, and I'm like, that's not a museum, that's a fucking storage space. Like that's, anyways.
All they could afford was a storage space to shoot the movie.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
so
in this movie they could afford 3 sets. There was the plain interior. There was the warehouse,
Kelsey's
and then there was
patio,
the red room from Twin Peaks, which they shot, I think, maybe 3 or 4 scenes in.
Yeah.
I mean, that was probably like a good chunk of the film's budget then, right? I imagine the red room doesn't come cheap.
I feel like Edge and Kelsey Grammer and Tom Jane were most of this movie's budget. And
Yeah, that's called a joke. Have you ever heard of? No. All right.
Did you watch the movie, Alex?
Joe, I respect myself.
That's not
Yes
true.
or no?
You like anime.
Yeah, I'm also playing Final Fantasy 14 right now, so I don't actually respect myself. No, I did not watch the film.
Yeah.
All right, I actually have to laugh that
Just
that
here to
was.
hang
You
out.
can
Wait,
tell because he called it a film.
Yeah, right.
I got to laugh.
I did
that-
not watch this movie. You're right. Thank
This
you.
is true.
Anthony.
Moving
This is a-
pictures.
This is
Go
a
ahead,
true
Bryce.
story because I have to laugh. I have to comment on this because you guys said Tom Jane, and I really thought that was his non-union Mexican equivalent. I did not realize that was actually Tom Jane. That's only happened to me once before, which is the in Destroyer. I'm like, man, this actor's really doing a terrible Bradley Whitford impersonation, and then it actually was Bradley Whitford, and I was just like sad for the rest of Destroyer.
I mean, that
but
movie
yeah.
stars Nicole Kidman, so I don't know that I would expect it. That I would be surprised that Bradley Whitford is in it.
Right, but anyway,
I also
I'm
haven't seen
surprised
it,
that-
so
I guess in hindsight, I'm not surprised that Tom Jane was in this either, but a little disappointed.
I mean, I had a series of notes about who was slumming the hardest in this movie, and I think it's Tom Jane.
It was Tom Jane.
Tom Jane's
Like I said,
slumming the hardest for sure.
He's
I don't-
slumming
look at what
so
he's done,
hard
like,
that he
the last-
breaks his persona.
I was
Look
gonna
at
say,
him,
what
like,
is
the
Tom
last 6
Jane
or
up
7.
to? And-
He,
yeah.
he was on the Expanse.
Yeah, he was on The
Question
Expanse. I mean,
All
that
right,
was
like
a
I-
popular, successful show with a big budget. So, I mean, I feel like
Okay,
that's.
yeah, but look at the movies that look at the movies he was in last. He was in 4 movies last year. Have you guys heard of any of them except for Money Plane, which is the one we watched for this episode? Sorry, 5 movies last year.
No,
Can
I'm
you
not. I'm
name
not.
one?
I'm not saying like Tom Jane like is always doing gold or whatever, but like he's usually like showing up. Like this was a bizarrely flat performance.
Right.
I'll
Yeah.
just mention here that one of my suggestions for a movie to watch to celebrate WrestleMania month was that we watch the Thomas Jane Punisher movie, which it's possible that we actually did in the original run of the Action Cast, but I now that we've seen this movie
don't think
maintain
so.
that this would have been a better decision than watching this movie, just to do that movie again.
That's probably true. Also, like,
I'll say I actually hate the Tom Jane Punisher, and yeah, it probably would have been better.
I don't really like it either. I feel like we just talked about the Dolph Lundgren one and Warzone, but I can't remember now. I feel
Yeah,
like I guess we
think
must
so.
have at least mentioned that. But here's the thing: there were at least like in the last couple of years, Tom Jane's been in a couple of movies that were like notable or big. Like he was in The Predator. He was in that Stephen King adaptation 1922, which was a direct-to-Netflix thing that people liked apparently.
Yeah.
Like. What was the last thing Kelsey
will-
Grammer was in that you fucking, or Denise Richards? Denise Richards is on the poster.
Richards.
Her name is above the title. She's in this movie for like 30 seconds. Like,
She's the only one in the
I've-
movie who is worse than Edge.
Real briefly, I will. Real briefly, I will vouch for 1922. It's an excellent little horror film, and
Mike Patton did the
something
soundtrack.
that- yeah, but I will say that I liked 1922 better than I liked The Apostle. So
Oh, wow.
take that
Okay.
for what it's worth.
I've
Yeah.
been meaning to watch it. It's been on my Netflix queue for a long time, and it's one of those that I never got around to. But now that you say that, I will get around to it because I did like The Apostle. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Tom Jane's slumming it the hardest out of all of the relatively famous people. I'm mystified at why they paid whatever they paid Denise Richards to be in this and put her name above the title. Because seriously,
I mean-
she is.
Well, but she's making what Sharknado money these days. Like
I
she's
guess.
not. Or no, that's Tara Reid. Shit,
Yes,
they all
that's
blend
Tara Reid.
together. I don't. Yeah, she can't be that expensive.
No.
Was popular in like the late '90s, early 2000s.
Yep. So
Denise Richards has no Bunny Lebowski in her past. Let's put it that way.
That's
She
true.
never
That's
reached those Tara Reid.
although
She's
apparently
on the Bold and the
She
Beautiful.
was in a Bond movie.
She's on the Bold and the
One-
Beautiful.
one of the
like,
shittiest
now.
ones.
That's what she does.
Yeah,
so
it was-
apparently like all the
Movie was
like
unwatchable.
the gore version of Tammy and the T-Rex was discovered, recently and released, and so like she's getting a bunch of the movie that she was so embarrassed of she would like never talk about it or answer questions about it is now like back in circulation. I don't know what that says about anything, but so yeah, that basically the setup is that so they even though Edge is already in debt to the Grouch,
The Rumble.
the Rumble,
Darius
who
Emmanuel
is
Grouch the Third.
yes,
Pause. The Rumble.
he's already in debt to him for $40 million, but he makes him blow like a different heist, so he'll be more in debt to him. It doesn't make any sense, as we said. But he so as penance for not getting the painting that was, an obvious, which they don't tell you that right away, but it's like super obvious, and he makes Edge and his crew heist the money plane, which is the name they give it in the movie. They just call it the money plane, and it's apparently an illicit casino that always flies in international airspace and does. And you can bet if you want to bet on a dude fucking a crocodile or an alligator.
What I would like to explore the premise of that bet. Like, what would you be betting on? Like,
Yeah,
whether or
does
not
he-
that
That
he
he
would do
would.
it?
Does he climax before he gets killed? Is
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
two types of bets that we've established. Like they show some of the weird bets, the
Yes.
adventure bets
Yeah,
they call
they-
them in the movie. And
they
so yeah,
don't-
it's either you either bet on how long he will last in terms of like how long until he climaxes with the alligator, or it's a bet to see how much money it takes to get him to fuck the alligator.
Because
And so to
we're
follow
seeing-
that up, I want to know from each of you how much to fuck that alligator.
a lot. A
How
lot.
big is the alligator? I didn't get to see it.
They don't show it. They just talk. They just reference fucking the alligator.
And it's an alligator, not a crocodile.
They do say alligator, not crocodile. Yes, that was my. I misspoke.
I'll do it for free. Let's go.
Nothing under 8 figures. That would have to be like a lifetime's worth of money.
Right. I need fuck you money to try to fuck an alligator.
I had a weird experience when they were describing the plot of this movie with the plane with the wagers and this aged master criminal, all that. I had a weird experience because I've been one of my shittiest. I think the shittiest quarantine watch that I've been doing is The Blacklist, like the shitty NBC.
Dude, you've been watching Sex in the City, okay? I know this because you've been posting about it on Instagram.
Sex in the City seasons 4 through 6 a lot better than The Blacklist. Better than this movie by a factor of in the dozens.
Is The Blacklist the one where it ended right before the during the pandemic, so they just animated random pieces of scenes?
Yes, but now there's they're producing a new season. I don't know how they did it. They potted up or something. The point is
that was incredible.
The Blacklist, I feel like probably
it did. It was great.
Yeah, it did. It was probably like a lot of series like that. I don't watch a lot of series like that, but the first season was all right, and then every season after that has just been awful.
Progressively dumber.
Yeah, but the show has there's similar vibes of there's a kind of wizened and kind of maybe sexy older master criminal. There's art heists that happen. There's a lot of stuff that happens on a plane. There's weird wagers. So it was giving me Blacklist vibes, and I wanted to run screaming back to the Blacklist. And that show is so bad. And
does it contain biting, searing dialogue like Pollock, Warhol, bunch of bitches?
Yeah, because Andy Warhol is definitely a symbol of absolute masculinity and machismo.
Until Kelsey Grammer said that, I thought fucking Andy Warhol was the second coming of John Wayne. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Bitches compared to Asker Jorn, the man that painted the disturbing duckling.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
one
obviously.
of the things that made this worse is that the Blacklist, for how shitty it is, it has James Spader in it, and he's one of the only guys who can take the worst dialogue that it's possible to write for a film and at least try to sell it. And Kelsey Grammer can't do it. Kelsey Grammer is a C+ at that.
He's kind of mailing it in. I feel like if he had enough money, he might be motivated to be a little bit more into it, but he is fucking mailing it in this one.
Yeah, it's obvious he owed someone a favor, because it was funny. I was trying to figure out if they only had him for one day or multiple, and I was going up until for one day up until the half-ass Scarface scene at the end, so maybe they had him for a day and a half. I don't know.
It's just you feel it makes me I recently watched somebody talk about The Terror and how Roger Corman made a movie, but then he had everybody for still a couple of days, so he just decided to make another movie because that's how fucking Roger Corman rolls, and he had Boris Karloff for one more day, and so he just walked around a castle getting random inserts of Boris Karloff, and Karloff is way more committed in that movie, even though nothing makes any fucking if you've ever sat through that movie, it is fucking incoherent, but Karloff is fucking there for it, and Kelsey Grammer is just, like I said, he's fucking mailing it in on this one.
Joe is not steering you wrong on any account here. I want to go back to what Ethan said really quick, just because I happen to know that Joe Carnahan is one of the executive producers on the Blacklist, and I think directed a couple of the episodes. And the only note that I took for this entire movie is, I can't tell if this is what would happen if you took Joe Carnahan and gave him several severe head injuries and made him direct something, or if you took Guy Ritchie and locked him in a room filled with wet paint with all the windows sealed shut and then made him direct something. But it's one of those two. It's one of those two aesthetics.
I feel even Guy Ritchie, even if Aladdin Guy Ritchie made a heist movie, it would be better than this.
I don't know. I have hated very few films the way that I hated that stupid fucking King Arthur movie. So.
Oh God.
And we're not even getting into Revolver or Swept Away or any of the turds in his fucking career.
There are people who defend Revolver, and I'm just why? But here's the okay. So I think one thing that we need to hit on very importantly, since we're talking about Guy Ritchie and Joe Carnahan, Here's the problem with
but
this
the movie
movie.
that we're quote unquote talking about.
Here's the problem with this movie. The biggest problem is that it's a heist movie, and like the heist itself, there's like nothing to it, right? It's like, okay, we'll get on the plane, and then I'll knock out the pilot, and then we'll like open the safe, and then we'll jack the crypto wallet from the server.
Which they think it is an actual wallet. It just like is a wallet that has like a screen on it, like a Google Home or like
yeah, it sort of seems like that or whatever. But so
that's what it is.
That's what it is.
But then, like, they get on the plane, and then they just, like, do all of that shit. Like, there's no sense of, like, when you watch a really fucking good heist movie, right? A fucking, Logan Lucky or Ocean's 11 or a fucking, like, there's tension there because they plan out this whole thing and you know something's gonna go wrong, something's gonna get fucked up, and then they're gonna have to deal with whatever got fucked up and still like get away with the loot, or maybe not, maybe they just get away with their lives or whatever you know what I mean? And this movie, it's literally just like, here's the plan, and then they do the plan, and the closest thing to a wrinkle is like, oh, there's a co-pilot, oops, and then Edge has to fight the co-pilot in the cockpit, and like, that's the closest it comes to, like, the heist going off the rails. And that happens in, like, the end of the first act, basically.
What you missed, Joe, is that the tension in this movie is a supernatural tension that builds very slowly as you start to realize, as the movie progresses, that this is a plane with no engine noise. And so something has gone wrong.
Yeah.
They all die.
Fly very quietly.
It's like House of Leaves.
Right.
I still have your copy of that, by the way, Anthony.
They all died on the
that's
first...
where that is. That crossed my mind a couple weeks ago.
It's in Tennessee, brother.
I was just like, I don't think I got rid of that, but I don't know where it is. Huh.
You lent it to us, and we still have it.
Enjoy.
So
Lent.
got it. I got it because it's Lent right now.
Oh, I meant like, as in, I don't know if I'm ever getting it back at this point.
Oh well. I gave you more credit. I thought you were making a Lent joke. Jesus,
yeah, no.
Anthony.
If you're giving me credit for a joke, you know you've misinterpreted.
That's fair. But yeah, it's just like there is no real. I said this to Bryce before we started recording. I think he was the only one here when I said it. But like, for a movie that is 82 minutes long, this is, and I know that Kurt has accused me in the past of riding my pacing hobby horse, but holy fuck, how can an 82-minute movie be paced so fucking badly?
You could have easily cut this down to like 45 minutes and made an episode of a bad TV show.
Yes!
That's what this felt like mostly to me, was like watching an episode of like one of those Baywatch TV shows from the 90s.
Right.
Like honestly, like speaking of things with wrestlers in it, like Thunder in Paradise. Right? And so it would have been really easy to make this like a 40-minute episode of a really awful TV show like that.
Or maybe, shall we say, Stealth Frasier reboot? This is the pilot. Pilot?
I get it.
Your Lent
Did
joke
he
was
fly
better.
The plane? I didn't watch it.
No, he doesn't fly the plane.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's just, I mean, like, how does a movie that's 82 minutes fucking feel like it is just like, this movie feels like it's 3 hours long, and it's 82 minutes.
Well, it's, you know, I don't know. It's just almost depressing to talk about, like, how bad this movie is, like, because it's just so incompetent on every level. But
the thing is, it's not every single level, right? It's not like there's no boom in the shot. There's no, like...
It's incompetent in some very fundamental level.
Yes.
The production values are awful fucking low. Like, it's not boom in the mic, boom mic in the shot, but it's
No, but
everything.
it's almost like, even worse, because there are moments of this movie where it's just like, in this shot, the boom op fucked up. You can barely hear Edge talking, and that's what they used. Like, it's fundamental stuff that you're supposed to get over when you're like,
it is,
making movies as like, you're 22
student films
straight out of college.
It is a moonlighting porn crew level of production value here.
I think that's an insult to like porn, isn't it? Like, from what I can understand of this movie, I didn't watch it, but
I mean, it's like, okay, like the color timing is right. Even the like One Bad Day for Night shot is like not completely embarrassingly Bad Day for Night. Like, it's not.
Like, I don't know. Like,
you know what I mean?
I keep going. It's like, look, we've talked about like Carnahan and Ritchie, and like they've made some shitty films, and they've made some films I really like. Like I know I have like a higher Joe Carnahan mileage than most people. So like even like let's take a movie that like a lot of people don't like, which is like Smoking Aces. Like that's like a kind of dumb, over the top action movie that has like not a lot of recognizable. Well, it doesn't have. I guess what I'm saying is it doesn't have like a lot of recognizable human behavior in it, and you know, like so I get why people like would like look at, but it's also just why there's a right and a wrong way to do things, because that's like cartoonish and stupid and filled with macho dialogue and like everything that you can say about this movie, but like this movie's just so bad at it. It's so incompetent at it that it's just like it's just.
It's really there's a sequence where the muscle of the heist crew is the woman, and I can't remember the actress's name now, Katrina Norman, and she's like she's the heavy, like in the opening scene when the heist goes wrong, she's the one who like knocks out all the guards and saves Edge's ass, while wearing like tight leather pants, of course, you know. So and there's a scene where she fights a dude and she like breaks a couple of beer bottles like over his head and then stabs him, and then grabs like a vodka bottle and breaks that over his head and stabs him. And the inset shots of her reaching back to the table to grab look like they were like, it doesn't even look like the same set. Like it's not just second unit. It looks like the fucking fifth unit shot these hands picking up the bottles.
No.
One of the notes that I wrote is
There's
that
no
that
budget
is
for a second or a fifth unit. Okay.
Well, yes, I understand that. But
also, yeah, but then like the CGI of her stabbing him in the gut doesn't. It's like she stabs him, and then they show like some bad CGI blood, and then it cuts away and cuts back when she hits him over the head, and the CGI is gone. Like they didn't have enough budget to keep the CGI in two shots.
But has there been a worse fight scene in Action Cast history? Like that wasn't intentionally bad. Like maybe there was some. I don't know if like maybe there was probably something in a movie like Black Dynamite or something that's worse on purpose. But like,
I feel like we never watched Black Dynamite for this show. We should though, because that movie rules.
Yeah.
But I feel like probably something in No Holds Barred was like probably maybe on that level.
What I want to get back to is I said in the thread that like this feels like the work of a fifth grader, and like here's my thing is that you can arguably say that Smoking Aces also feels like the work of a fifth grader, but at least feels like the work of a talented fifth grader. This feels like the work of that fifth grader's like classmate who like, you know, just wants to be included, and he's like, goes like, oh, my buddy's writing a script, well, I'm gonna write a script too, and like he's just seen a lot of other movies and hasn't interacted with a lot of other people. Like there's literally lines like I'm the best pilot like in the Air Force, and like they're not meant ironically or like dumb or like poking fun. Like they're just like he thinks that's how exposition works, is that if you need someone to like know that like someone has an army background and also can pilot a drone, you just have him like say, I'm a pilot. Like it's like he's Ralph fucking Wiggum or something.
Now that this line of dialogue has been uttered by the character, everyone understands his skill set.
Yeah, it contains lines like the house crypto wallet. Like you want to bet on it, dude. I made jokes about the dude fucking the alligator, but this is the actual line of dialogue spoken by Kelsey Grammer. You want to bet on a dude fucking an alligator? Money plane. That's exactly the line.
That's what I was gonna say. Is in the trailer, this movie tells you what it is in the trailer, because that literally when he's talking in the trailer about like I want you to steal something, there's a line where they like focus in on him, and it's just Kelsey Grammer going, "It's called the money plane," and that's like
it's that scene. It's the same scene.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. It's like they tell you up front that like, okay, exposition's gonna be bad, dialogue's gonna be bad, premise is ridiculous and like you know immediately what you're getting, and it's
but it's executed worse. That like there is a version of this movie that is super fun and moves at a fast pace and is like a blast for 80 minutes. This movie is not that movie, right?
No, absolutely not. And you can tell because when you look at just look at like who's in it, when it was made, like how everybody's phoning it. The trailer tells you everything you need to know, which is that this movie's gonna suck, and it's like and it does. It sounds like so.
The thing
Now
that I have to laugh
is
at.
a smooth takeoff.
The thing that I have to laugh about is that, like, when the alligator line came, like, my jaw dropped. I'm like, God, that's one of the worst fucking lines I've ever heard. And then that ended up being, like, one of the better lines in the movie.
My personal favorite line in the movie, I think, is, okay, bitch, here comes daddy. I think that was my favorite.
So not to call you out or anything, Eric, but like you seem to be floating the theory in the email thread that this movie is self-aware, and I really don't think it is. Like,
I said I couldn't tell if it was or not, and then I came to the conclusion that I thought it was a Nathan for You episode. Edge is the stupid.
Yes.
Because he seems to be the one that is actually trying the hardest, and everybody else is just kind of mailing it in. But Edge is like, yes, this is. If I know this isn't good, but if I try my hardest, then maybe I can do something on the level of the Marine in the future. And I think that's in the cards.
I think there's.
We're talking about Edge trying hard. There's some notes here that I forgot to mention that were the first notes I took about this movie, which I was. My girlfriend was watching this movie with me. And I did not tell her that there was a pro wrestler in this movie, so she didn't know why this like leading man who she'd never seen before is like what's he doing? Why is there a vehicle around this guy? And her 3 comments about this guy who she didn't know who he was were, upon his first appearance on screen, she said that his hair looks like shit. And then as he, I think it was the scene where they're introducing the concept of the money plane. And he's like doing his like, I'm acting for people in the 80th row bug eyes. She said that his eyes are terrifying, and made the observation
he's
that
the rated R superstar.
Yeah, but there's a movie you can build around that performance set and still have a good movie. This movie again just isn't that movie.
Her read on his performance was that she could tell something was off, even though she didn't know it was a pro wrestler, and I never told her it was, and said that
never, even now, she doesn't know that this is a former WWE champion.
She said the vibe was as if somebody who's like a rich asshole, like Jack Dorsey or Jeff Bezos or something, like funded an action movie so they could play an action hero on screen, and like had that level of skill.
What's the name of that Canadian millionaire who makes all those really terrible movies?
Oh, Neil. Right? Is that the guy? Neil something?
I don't know. But he makes like a bunch of movies so he can star in them, and then like hires like hot actresses and then makes them make out with them. I can't remember what the guy's name is, but
did we ever watch The Crime Killer for this show?
I don't even know what that is, so no.
That's Neil Breen.
Neil Breen. There you go. I don't know what that is.
Is a guy's vanity project where he wanted to be an action hero, and it's a delightful movie that's probably got some stuff in common with The Room, but no one's seen it. We should watch it at some point.
I'm actually, so like the fact that there is some level of earnestness in this movie makes it much more watchable to me than something like Sharknado. Or
agreed. I agree with that.
Yes,
where they're like they know it's bad and nobody's trying, and it's like not any fun to
watch.
At all. Like,
but that's also literally the lowest bar to clear, that your movie doesn't have irony poison.
But I feel like I mean,
it would have been very easy for this movie to have that, right? Like everybody could. Instead of just not trying, they could have been actively like making like a jerking off motion while they were
right. But like that's, I mean, obviously I don't know TJ from Recess, but like this doesn't read like a script of like someone with like a sense of humor about that shit. Like I really think he thought he wrote like the baddest ass script that he could write.
I mean, probably, but that's again, there's still something kind of charming about that isn't there when, as you said, like I can always tell when people don't get genre film when they say things to me like, oh, you seem like you love Sharknado. And I'm like, no, Sharknado is a computer's idea of what a fun, bad movie is. Like, it's real fun, bad movies are made on accident because someone's trying to make something that rules.
Yes. Right. That is, yes.
Sharknado is the title, and then you didn't have to actually make the movie because
I will give money playing this as it was certainly made on accident. I do believe that 100%, and good on you guys.
So
God bless.
So the whole thing about So they go in the money plane, right? Because again, there's no exposition in this fucking movie. They go. Edge has a family, so that he's
there
worried.
Is exposition, but it's just super basic. And,
well, right.
Like, you say that there's none, but it's actually just so simple that it doesn't.
It's also like 5 minutes of the movie, right?
It's all just delivered completely declaratively.
Yes.
Like at all times with Tom Jane being like, "Hey, I'm your old friend, and you made me like your godfather, and like now I'm like here to protect your children. Have fun on the money plane." Like,
I mean,
these are filled with bad dudes. Like it sounds like I'm exaggerating, but I'm not.
No, you're not. You're really not. And it's like they're just all archetypes. There's no depth to any single one of these characters. They are all absolutely like a sketch of a character, maybe.
We're talking about the Enforcer, maybe the most impressive, like, and I'm not even saying this sarcastically, scene of the movie is like, at one point he's like, I'm going to be pretending to be this guy, who we know is dead because she killed him, and it cuts to, like, just, like, him, like, her shooting him in the fucking face, and, like, I was actually impressed because it's like, she pulled up to his car, like, on a motorcycle, like, on a street, I'm like, okay, this is, like, a whole nother set, and, like, that's technically a stunt, and, like, she hit her mark and then, like, shot him, so she hit, like, 2 marks. Like, that's, like, an almost competent insert shot there. Like, that's being narrated over for no fucking reason.
When
like,
I
good
saw
job,
that, I wondered if it was, like, something that they stole from another movie.
I feel like that scene wasn't far enough into the movie for me to yet feel like they stole it from a different movie. In hindsight, I wonder. But it's just...
All right. So they get on the plane.
They get on the plane and
so they have all the security, right? And all this. They have a server on the plane, and they're transferring cryptocurrency or whatever. They don't understand. How it works, but,
right. They don't understand technology at all.
There's no video cameras, I guess, because they're criminals. I guess, but they don't vet the people that they let on the plane very well. They just like kind of anybody can get on, I guess.
Well, if you know about the money plane, then you can get on. You gotta know. But that's the fucked up thing. Okay, so they go and they give regular passports when they're getting on the money plane, which is like, why? First of all, you're not going anywhere. You're coming back to the United States and landing in the place you took off from. So you don't need a passport.
The point is to fly the plane over international airspace so that you can't be arrested for anything that happens on the money plane.
Right, but we're going to log your fucking passport when you go in there. And then they ask them all for this. Okay, so this is... I'm going to do a thing that, generally speaking, I don't like doing, which is like when people watch a dumb action movie and they nitpick every little tiny thing, and it's like, well, this isn't realistic, and this isn't realistic. And in a movie that's...
fucking many of them.
Right, I was going to say, in a movie that's better, you can ignore that shit because the movie is fun, or it's interesting, or it's cool, and this movie is none of those things, so all that shit sticks in my craw even worse. And it's like... They all bring their guns, but then the flight attendants make them put their guns in a box, and it's like all together. And I'm like, if these people are like super high powered criminal types, wouldn't they have like super fucking kick ass like custom guns that they wouldn't want to get like the ivory handle scratched by just dropping it in a box with somebody else's gun? Like that seemed.
When the budget is such that they bought these plastic guns at the dollar.
Right. Yeah. Right.
That's not the concierge service that I'm expecting.
Right.
On the money plane.
If I'm getting on the money plane, I want you to put my gun in a personal gun safe and keep it for me so that when I come back, I get it back. Not like I'm getting into a fucking concert and I still have half a beer, so I have to throw it in the. You know what I mean?
Listen,
like
we let you fuck alligators or whatever. You're lucky we even do this.
But yeah, okay, so that's...
Speaking of the concierge service.
Yes, please.
Concierge shows up, who is Joey Lawrence. He pronounces the word concierge. And then he says, I'm here to facilitate your every desire for action and speculation, which...
That's an A+ line, I gotta say, actually.
Actually, Joey Lawrence is actually surprisingly good in that role, honestly.
I think, something like that.
Okay.
The concierge and the bookkeeper are like the two best. They're like they commit the hardest. Al Sapienza and Joey Lawrence commit the hardest to the bit.
On the concierge.
Yes, absolutely.
Listen, what about the cowboy, Joe?
Okay, I was going to say, as I said to Bryce before we started,
is not his. I think you're being way too generous.
No, there's one great scene in this movie. And it's the Russian roulette scene. So the whole bit is that you can gamble on anything you can play. The thing that I did find weird, another one of these things that kind of sticks in my craw is like there's a whole running gag where they don't explain to one of the crew members what he's betting on until it's too late. Which seems weird. Like that's not I wouldn't want to go back onto the money plane if they were just like, hey, pick a fucking number 1 through 100. And I was like, 17? And they're like, cool. You just bet on a guy getting bit by a cobra and surviving for 17 minutes.
Right.
Well,
I'm
like, what?
It can't be exaggerated, like I said, just of how untalented this 5th grader is. Because, like, the Russian roulette scene, it's exaggerated. I'm sure I'm mingling the quote, like, more than it could be mangled, but like he literally says, we're going to play roulette. Then he like waits for a beat and goes like, of the Russian variety.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Like,
so yeah, they're playing.
Why are you so bad at this? This is your job.
Also, it ramps up super fast, right? They're playing fucking Hold'em.
Texas Hold'em.
They're playing Texas Hold'em.
Okay.
Yeah, the game selection in this is just it is really perfectly just the games that a 15-year-old would think that badass criminals do. Russian roulette, Texas Hold'em, like the only kind of poker that somebody would have heard of at that age.
Yeah, it's like
and then Saw.
It's like I forgot. I can't remember which. We did a podcast once, and I just remember Alex talking about how this is the movie that a 12-year-old would explain, and then like doing an impression of a 12-year-old explaining it. And it's like, this is that movie as well, right? It's like, and then they get on the plane, and then they play poker, but then they play Russian roulette, and then they play like bet on how long the shark takes to eat the guy.
A gun, and then there's a shark.
Yep. Yeah. And then they bet, and then a cobra bites a guy, and they bet on how long it takes him to die from the poison.
What was the second bet? Like, I couldn't even figure out what was happening. Like, the first...
It was literally how long will the shark take to eat this dude?
No. That was the third bet. I'm talking about there was
the second one...
Literally sitting at a table, and then one guy just hits the other guy with the hammer, and like, what?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I forgot.
Like, how long it was going to take to hit this guy with the hammer?
I literally spaced that one out because I have no idea what the fuck was going on either.
Exactly what was
okay.
Going on. So what was happening was the lady that was working on the money plane was offering those two guys like money to kill the other guy, and then
to
a certain amount because she keeps like saying like 200,000 rubles. 500,000 rubles, and then the guy like kills the other guy or chops his arm off.
Chops his arms off and leaves him to bleed to death. Okay, that now I get it now.
Was the Saw game that I was referring to.
Well, they're all like okay. Also, Bryce talked about I think it was Bryce. You mentioned the effect of the CG blood effect that was really bad, but also when the shark eats the dude.
It's piranhas, Joe.
Whatever the fuck it is.
Don't strip people to the bone.
Do you expect this movie to know that, Eric?
1 minute and 57 seconds.
Do you expect this movie to know that? Okay, like, but the guy is like a skeleton, and the CG skeleton looks like
it's really good.
It's so bad. I can't even describe. It looks like the shittiest possible Halloween prop you would hang in front of your house.
You know,
but it's like clearly CG, and it's really bad.
I'm gonna give that credit to a certain extent because bad CG effects aren't usually that charming, and that was a charmingly bad effect the way that charmingly bad physical effects are. It
looked kind of like what's that really stupid creepypasta that's like everybody dunks on for being super dumb, where it's the guy with the white face or whatever, something the killer, Bob the Killer or something like that. It looked like that basically, that really dumb image. It looked a lot like that. It was so bad, but the Russian roulette scene is awesome, and
I don't know that it is.
It is because it's like the dude, the member of Edge's crew doesn't know what's going on, and he's like, okay, I'll bet whatever against this guy who's the cowboy, who's the third Lawrence brother, and they spread out a red tablecloth over the card table, and he's like, what's this for? And the bookkeeper guy is like, it makes cleanup easier. And then, he's like, roulette of the Russian variety. And he makes sure everything is on the up and up. He takes the revolver. He puts one shell in the cylinder and he spins it. And he sets it down. And the cowboy guy is the champion. So he's like, oh, you can go first. And then they basically do a Wabbit season, duck season, where the cowboy guy's like, oh, no, I'll go first. It's fine. And then he's like, well, but the house rules say that the challenger is supposed to go first. He's like, all right, well, then you go first. And he slides the gun back over to the guy from Edge's crew. And he's like, no, like, you go first. And they go back and forth about, like, you know, he said he wanted to go first. Just let him go first. And then the bookkeeper's like, he was doing it as a gesture. You're supposed to go first. And finally, the guy's like, oh, fuck it. Just give me the gun. And he slides it over to the dude. He puts it under his chin and blows his fucking brains out on the first shot.
I gotta say that rabbit season, duck season is almost a little bit too generous because that's another wrinkle. Because at no point do they go, well, let me do it, like to get the other guy to.
Well,
grab
right,
it.
yes,
There's not that level of depth and choreography.
That's also one of the best bits in like fucking comedy history. Okay, so like it's not.
But it's also, it's like seriously, this movie just in every single scene, it's from point A to point A. Like it's like there's no depth or variation or anything ever. At any point in this movie, including in the scene, which I will just say delivers its punchline at the correct time.
Exactly. The punchline is delivered at the perfect moment, and it's the perfect punchline, because they could have done a thing where they... there's a lot of ways they could have gone with this, and they did it just perfectly of him just being like, fuck it, grabbing it and fucking pulling the trigger, and he's fucking dead. And it's the best scene in the movie. Even if... It's right,
I kept waiting for there to be some consequences for them breaking the house rules or whatever, and everyone's just like, nah, you know, like whatever. I guess it was silly for the bookkeeper to be mad about that after all.
Yeah, that's another one of those things that sticks in my craw. That like in a better movie I would ignore it, but there's a whole build up of like these are the rules. If you fight, if you do this, if you do that, like we're gonna fucking like don't do that shit or else basically. And then this fucking dude who is just like, I don't know, he's like the weapons dealer's high school buddy. That's the only way that I can make that even kind of make sense, that this fucking dipshit would be with him on the fucking money plane. And so like his bodyguard / high school best friend first tries to like cop a feel on one of the hostesses, which they explicitly say like, there are hookers on this plane. The hostesses are not the hookers. And this dude is trying to like grope one of the hostesses. And then he punches a waiter in the face, and the enforcer guy is basically just like, this is your warning. And it's like, well, what the fuck was the point of setting up all these fucking rules and being like, don't do it.
Well, then they show a guy cheating at cards and they shoot him in the head.
Yeah, that actually was kind of great. Joey Lawrence just like very smoothly pulls out a gun and shoots a dude in the back of the head for cheating at cards, that's pretty good too.
Also, I sent a picture of the CGI skeleton in the email thread just in case you get a look at it again. It's good.
I need to see this.
It's extremely good. Yeah, I mean, and by extremely good, I mean it's fucking terrible.
And so this is kind of where the.
Now I see why Eric likes this.
Okay. You know what? I'm gonna skip ahead. I'm gonna skip ahead just a little bit because I just saw something on Letterboxd that I really have to underline. And in a way, maybe it was fitting that Money Plane was our year-anniversary movie, because we started with Darkman, which has a scene where the bad guy, or Darkman and the guys of the bad guy, turns to the camera and goes, I am Robert J. Durant, and I am creating a robbery. And in this, there is a scene where an edited clip has Kelsey Grammer screaming, I am Darius Grouch III, comma, the Rumble, comma, and I am taking down the Money Plane. So, you know, it was kismet. It was like it was Reaper Man's plate of shrimp. It was a lattice of coincidence that was bringing us to this moment, which is Money Plane. So there you go.
Yeah. So did you ever Universal Unconscious? No reason for it. No use in looking for one either. But yeah, that definitely does happen. So that's another. But okay. So Kelsey Grammer starts to fuck them over. The Grouch starts to fuck them over before they have his money.
Darius Emmanuel Grouch III, the Rumble. Thank you.
Right.
I'm calling him the Grouch. The Grouch is the guy from Sesame Street.
Right. I shouldn't disrespect Oscar that way by comparing him to anything in this movie, but
Oscar's plan to take down the Money Plane would be much better.
Yeah. Right. So that's the thing. He starts to fuck them over before they've taken the money and given it to him. What? He could have just shot Edge on his fucking patio if he wanted him dead.
He wants to make him miserable.
Sure, I guess. But he didn't count on Tom Jane, the best ex whatever, pulled out of retirement one more time by Edge to help him out and do a job. And fly a drone.
Major in the Air Force or something.
Yeah, drone murders. Not the normal kind of drone murders that like the U.S. military does, but like a drone with a pistol on it that he uses to murder. Yeah, he's got a remote-controlled drone with just like a Glock, just like resting in the fucking grip of the drone, and some switch on his remote makes him pulls the trigger for him.
The setup for that is that the guy directing the movie is left behind. He's part of Edge's crew, and he is left behind to set up some like equipment on the ground that they're supposed to be, I guess, like they're supposed to be sending the hacked cryptocurrency to that guy and using that to relay it to something so that way it can't be traced back to them or whatever. And then the Grouch sends a team to murder him.
I mean, this movie,
all those guys, really great. The final thing where he is like doing this thing in a dirt pile where he's like shooting back and forth with this other guy, and then he just like sticks his hand through the stone.
That's pretty good, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I had no idea what was going on there because the movie is so bad at just the fundamentals of telling a story through the language of cinema that I couldn't tell they were that close together even.
Yeah, the same. Until he shot him, I couldn't tell they were that close together. Yeah.
This is like the anti-raid and all the action sequences.
Yes. Oh my God,
it's
yes.
It's impossible to follow the action and none of it makes any sense.
Also, whichever, I don't know if that's the youngest Lawrence brother, the middle one, whichever one it is, the director who's on the ground, he's fucking dollar store Brendan Fraser. Anybody else get that vibe? Sure. He's a poor man's Brendan Fraser. But so that's how Tom Jane saves his ass with a drone that's got a gun in its hands, in its grip. And
that's like the 9th dumbest thing to happen in this movie.
Yeah,
they just like a commercial drone. It's a drone that you could go to Walmart and buy.
That you would put it where you would put the GoPro. He put a Glock instead of the GoPro. This movie doesn't understand technology at all. Eric just reminded me saying that like they're transferring the crypto. So like the thing with cryptocurrency, if I'm not mistaken, is that like if you have the fucking like key to the blockchain password, basically like the money is effectively yours, because the whole point is that you're not supposed to be able to tie it to anybody. So if you got the password, it's your fucking money. But the movie acts like they have to do something besides just get the credentials. They gotta hack the server, and then they talk about
they're hacking into the mainframes.
They're hacking, yeah. But my favorite thing about all of that is that they're like, if we access the server via like Wi-Fi from the ground to an airplane, they won't notice. But if we plug a USB in here, they'll be on us immediately. We can't do that.
And then they have to plug the USB thing into it, and nobody cares. It doesn't matter.
Right. That is the final thing that I was just like, what the fuck with this movie? They do this whole thing. So it's obvious who the thieves are. They killed a bunch of people on this plane, and then they jump out. They're the only ones who aren't on the plane anymore because they fucking like Halo jump out of this fucking 747. Right. And the bad guys or not the bad guys, but like the money plane people, the house, quote unquote, they just go after Kelsey Grammer. Like they just decide that they're not going to go after Edge and his crew, even though they took their money and fucking winged it out of a plane.
You saw what happened on the plane. They're not that competent. They were on the plane in the first place. Like, how the fuck would they?
Right, but they like show up at fucking
because he announces his name.
The Rumbles.
Edge records Kelsey Grammer talking shit and then plays it over the loudspeaker on the plane, and then that's how the criminals find him and kill him. And then he has his Scarface moment at the very end of the movie.
Yeah, if this movie had the budget or the balls to like straight up have like a 5-minute machine gun fight where Kelsey Grammer is blown to pieces and then decapitated, I would have taken back any bad thing that I had said about this and just like 5 stars immediately. But no, we just get one lousy reaction shot.
I mean, it's just like, and it feels like we're rushing through this, but again, this is an 82-minute movie that does nothing in the middle. Like the second act is nothing.
I was gonna say,
it's a guy watching bets.
Once you get past the bets, like that's kind of the interesting part, and then the rest of it is just like
they meander around the plane,
thing, and the lady like trying to find the server room and just like kind of hanging out and getting into a couple of close quarters fights that are poorly shot, and that's kind of all there is to the
And they all talk out loud on their earpieces, like there's like no one can. There's a moment where the dude who's been doing all the betting for Edge.
It's not a big plane.
No, it's not a big plane. And there's a moment where he like a bunch of the hostesses are kind of like shots, like we're gonna do shots, and he's like no, like I gotta go do a thing. He closes a curtain and then immediately just starts talking to Edge about their heist shit. And I'm like, is that a fucking soundproof curtain? Like what the fuck, dude?
Kind of criminal curtain that you only get on the money for.
Yeah, apparently. There's fucking 10 people behind you who are invested in not letting you rip off this plane, and you're just like, sorry about that, I'll be right there to fucking steal the shit. Like,
yo, these are crime grade curtains, okay?
fair enough.
Yeah.
There was a bit of ideological consistency in this movie that that kind of like came to a head as it marched to the end of the plot.
The themes are pretty deep. This is the
the themes are pretty deep. There's like a kind of a very strange section of dialogue in one of the early games where they're talking about human trafficking, and the script is just for a few minutes, just like reading off the Wikipedia article about human trafficking with like
and
Edge is pretending to be is a supposed human trafficker.
Yeah.
Right, yes.
And then the guy that he's like betting with he's the guy who sold the nuclear material to Iran, apparently. And then they like have this weird like tit for tat about like who's caused more human misery.
Yeah.
Hooray.
So by impersonating this human trafficker, and like ultimately getting vengeance against Kelsey Grammer, Edge is like kind of a warrior against this great but kind of like abstract and amorphous injustice in the world somewhere else that's going on in the world, like we don't see it up close. Also,
well, he gives all that money to UNICEF, so it's going to be all better.
He
is that a joke or does that actually happen?
That actually happens.
To help him, and they kill bad guys with a drone, and then he posits that they'll take $1 billion and donate it to charity. So basically, Edge in this movie is just a liberal.
He does have there's a great scene early in the movie where he's talking to his little girl about committing crimes, and she's like, but like, so if you take the money and give it to somebody then it's okay to steal from people? And he's like, yes.
Well, because he's reading her Robin Hood. Because you get it? Do you get it? He's reading her Robin Hood. Do you get it?
I don't get it. Sorry.
Do you get it? Okay. Because Robin Hood stole from the rich and gave to charity. So Robin Hood gave his money to UNICEF, famously. So yeah.
Well, it's not just UNICEF, because it's like $1 billion in crypto.
All right. He talks about like we'll give it to like Syrian refugee whatever causes and whatever, and like I mean that's all great, I guess.
Line where they say untraceable and unrefundable.
That's the only thing they get right about cryptocurrency, I think. Is like that's the only accurate technological line of dialogue in this fucking film. Also, I missed one of the other great lines because I didn't put it in quotes in my notes. But I don't know if you guys know this about rules. Rules were made to be fucked.
Just like alligators.
That's the line that would not have been made up by a 12-year-old or a 15-year-old, because like they would have
gotten in trouble.
They would have workshopped it better than that, I think.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I have two last things that are sticking in my craw that are nitpicky things, which again, like in a better movie, wouldn't matter as much, but they really bother me in this one. Like, can we talk about how do you get a job as security on the fucking criminal high stakes money plane if like a hot chick like badly shaking her ass fucking distracts you from guarding the vault? Like, seriously. She is. She is a lovely woman for sure. But I feel like if your job is to guard like a fucking $1 billion and a bunch of bags of cocaine for some reason, then they just keep in the safe because it's a bad guy safe in a movie, so they have to have big bags of cocaine or heroin or whatever it is. Like, you would probably be sort of like hip to the idea of like a sexy girl might come and like show her butt to you. Maybe don't fall for that, you fucking idiot. Like,
I would think that if your job is to make a movie that has a budget of what IMDb says is $5 million, and you hired an actress to play this role where she's doing the sexy dance to distract this guy, and it turns out that the person you hired to play this role can't dance, you might go on like Fiverr and like hire somebody to do like a 5-minute like dance lesson.
Simple choreography. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong. And then the last thing about all that stuff that like from the Department of Redundancy Department, why?
Department of Redundancy Department.
Yes. Why does Edge need to know from Tom Jane that he fucked him over when he bugged fucking Grouch's patio at the beginning of the movie? Like, what is the point? If he's listening to everything that the Rumble has been saying for the last 2 days, why does he need Tom Jane to fucking dig deep and figure out who has the painting?
I'm sorry. Hey, Joe, could you just say the Rumble like that one more time?
The Rumble.
Thanks.
Did we not mention yet that in his final standoff scene, the Scarface scene, he says so quietly that you can barely hear him because the location sound didn't really pick him up, "It's Rumble time."
I think I missed that actually. So yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. So anyway, that's Money Plane.
Yeah, it's just, I'm baffled at how boring an 80-minute movie can be. It's shocking. I'm scandalized by how fucking dull as dishwater.
So is this the worst movie we've ever
No.
done?
No.
No, we established.
That was pretty
It's the
fast.
first movie that I have participated in for this show.
I'm
Absolutely,
just-
for sure, with no doubt.
I would have said that it was for me, but then Joe did remind me of Thanksgiving 3, and that was a true motherfucker.
Seriously, I don't even think this is bottom 5 for me, honestly. Like, off the top of my head,
Okay, what's
Thanksgiving
worse?
3, Gunblast Vodka, Santa with Muscles. Yep. For sure. Easily. And I would have to kind of think about it a little bit after that, but like those 3 for sure with a fucking bullet are worse than this movie. Absolutely. Thanksgiving 3, dude, Anthony, we couldn't even finish that fucking movie.
Thanksgiving 3?
Yes.
Yeah, that one was fucking and that's even worse because there were 2 of us there.
Right, we were hanging out together and watching it,
You
and
can
we
power through some pretty awful shit when you've got a buddy there.
Yeah, and that movie's also only like 80 minutes long and is a total fucking disaster. I think it's, you know what though, I will say bad comedy is harder to watch than a bad action movie. That is part of what makes Thanksgiving 3 so fucking agonizing, is that it's supposed to be funny and it just fucking isn't.
Not even close.
Yeah. But I would have to think more about the other 100 and however many movies we've watched for this show, but I think that there's probably a couple more that are worse than this.
Santa with Muscles was not as hard to sit through. Like, it wasn't great by any stretch.
Santa with Muscles was fucking agonizing. We watched that together too, didn't we?
I want to say maybe.
I don't remember. I'd have to look at what year we did that. Maybe we didn't. That might have been when I
this
still lived
is-
in Wisconsin.
For me, this is definitely just on par with those Hulk Hogan movies.
This is on par with like No Holds Barred, I think. This,
Oh,
although
that bad.
although this movie has nothing on the level of Dookie
I thought you were gonna say Teeny.
or Teeny Wangers.
Teeny Wangers.
I don't
Yeah.
know, the Russian roulette scene in this movie is pretty alright.
That's true. That is. But it also doesn't like Kelsey Grammer or even Joey Lawrence, who I said is like the most committed. None of them are as committed as Kurt Fuller in fucking No Holds Barred. Kurt Fuller is going for it in No Holds Barred, which is part of what makes that movie at least semi-tolerable. Yeah, it's in the lower strata for sure, but I would say it is not the worst for sure. But it's again, the thing about it that just gets me is that I can't believe how short it is and how long it feels. That is the thing. And that they hired someone who's relatively famous. Like, I know Edge isn't a professional actor, but he probably wasn't super cheap. You know, he doesn't need the money. and he does nothing. He fucking sits in a chair for the whole goddamn movie. You know, like, you wouldn't get The Rock to just fucking sit in a chair for the whole movie in an action movie, right? I don't know.
He's piloting that money plane.
He's piloting the money
Crucial
plane.
role.
So yeah, I don't know. I think that's. I think that might be it for me. I don't know. Did anybody else have any final thoughts about?
No.
Yeah, I think maybe the one thing I hated most in this movie is something that we didn't have an occasion to bring up, which is that there's a scene in this movie where Thomas Jane is in his kitchen and he's chopping up carrots on a stone serving platter, which made my skin crawl.
Yeah, you'll dull your knives that way. Actually, he'll dull somebody else. Those are Edge's knives. He's dulling Edge's edge. Huh?
That's why Edge kept trying to lock him out of the house.
That's right.
Well, guys, it's been a year, and I'm glad we started fucking doing this again, because, you know, as much as this year sucked, it probably would have sucked more without new action cast in it. So,
yes, absolutely.
Thanks for doing it. Thanks for everyone out there for listening, except for the folks who just listened to the Time Cop episode. You guys frighten and confuse me.
Yeah, same here.
So,
also, just
one person has listened to it 40,000 times.
I want
50,
you guys. Somebody
50.
thinks it's 50. Somebody thinks it's really hilarious. I also want you guys just. I did have one more thing that I wanted to ask you guys, please, as a favor. If I ever decide to start up a criminal casino on an airplane, make sure that I don't forget the lava lamp.
we won't let you down, Joe.
Did anybody else, like, I can't be the only one who noticed that, right? Like, it's like this high-tech fucking casino.
Images of there's this fight in the server room, and they hit the drawer of the server, and a CD pops out? ? What? And then the CD is a fucking bare naked lady.
That's right. Yes. Oh, we can even. I can't believe we forgot to mention that.
I listened to a lot when we were kids, and I was very confused by what was happening there. Why that was there? What was happening?
That email that you sent was the best scene in the movie for me.
Yes. But yeah, we'll be back next month, with I think a better movie, depending on the timing of the related new movie. But I think we'll be back with. It would be hard for us to come back with something worse next month. So we do this the second Monday of every month at 10 o'clock Central Time, and we'll be back in April doing something else again. Thanks for suffering through this. Probably don't watch this movie unless you really love Edge, and even then, I'd maybe fucking take a pause before you decide to dive into this one, because it seems short, but it feels long. So
Edge is an okay wrestler, but he's not a charisma guy. Like,
he's not a Dave Bautista,
or even Hulk Hogan or whatever. Right. Well, Dave Bautista is actually kind of a good actor.
Yeah, right.
Which is a different thing.
Well, fair.
Edge also had a podcast for a long time that the archives are probably still there. So I think that if you're dying for Edge content, you got to make it through like hundreds of hours.
Yeah.
There's also that awful show he did with Christian.
Yeah, I was gonna say the show he did on WWE Network, the Edge and Christian show that totally reeks of awesomeness or whatever. That's that's probably less torturous than this, I would guess, but longer because there's a lot of episodes. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead and call it. We'll be back next month. Thanks everybody for hanging out and watching this, listening to us after we watch this, and we'll be back next month. But